아정로래야 마루딜리기 섬지 슈비
I would like to wish everyone good morning.
다들인데 다시 묘람기 당위시기 겁이야 순수치하게 니마 타마디 이머라.
So it seems today is the last day of the teaching during the actual Munlam.
아니 나 딜레야 아니 포도에 치료를 못디 나도 로카시에 느리지 시에비는 바지 로카시에 고스라에서 로진이진 고스라에서 버비트르시 정도.
So if I continue teaching the long soliloquy by Potowa in the same manner, it'll take a few more years to finish it, another year or two.
다디 가장 가장 딜이야 슈아인 지시 슈아인 딜이야 가장 딜이야 딕발 너미 세치만 게 손손도 개와야 당부로 마트 퇴게 마삼 대외 센딜이야 땅에를 치매 동에라 만zem바 노르투마지 용용다나 루소 최탐제 테라 보니베들 민제외유 동에게 귤레네바차 타투바데 임버도
First of all, I would like to give some explanation of a passage I read yesterday, the last paragraph on page 4 from the second sentence. First of all, they haven't even heard that misdeeds ripen as rebirth in the three lower realms in the next life. Even if they have heard, they do not think of it. Instead, without shrinking from ill repute in this life and suffering in the next, they are able to sacrifice everything, their body, life, and dharma. If it seems they might gain some riches, they deserve our compassion. That is the epitome of wallowing in the causes of suffering.
단디 가서는 데네 노르툼바레다 세두스타네 오늘은 노르투마지 인사 말해 디 노르툼지 인사래 다시 투마툼 노르툼지서 노르토스지 tumbuji's dosis harjwa 제가 노르토시 당스 ane 다나 신기 집에나 수수 대사 시차서럽지 공부하러 있는데 김신로 김 대사로 딘지지 용사래 삼나 센디기 가수의 땅에라 땅에서 사는 작방에 봐서 그러와 미기 야보 말에 두자를 시대야 대라 점거 말했어 당하나지 세치마 년송도 동에 충분히나 점거 말했어 너나 류당 소 최냠nen샤 탐지 태가르 르동친이 봐 이제서 상월로 닌지 내스 닌지 유래도
So what this is saying is that if people want some riches, so some riches means some amount of riches. For example, if it might be a good place to stay, whether a monastery or their own house, if they might think it'll work out for a good place to stay or to get some riches, then they do not, if they think that this will work out well, then they do not shrink from gaining ill repute. So ill repute is being known in a bad way, being notorious, having people say this person is no good, and so forth. Nor do they shrink away from the suffering of the lower realms in future lives. Instead, they are willing to give up everything, their bodies, their lives, their dharma practice. And such people really deserve compassion. They are worthy of compassion.
다가나 신기 동에긴 지부 전부 주심에게 귤내봐 타르투바 서주사나 가나 귤내봐 오네디 다 데레스 동에기 지부 전부지 주심에게 귤내봐 타르투바 오네 뭐마디 데레스.
And so that is the epitome of wallowing in the causes of suffering. So the epitome of wallowing means that this is the actual, real cause of great suffering in the future. This is the epitome or the biggest cause of great suffering.
다 딩상 다 드네야 저지 슈이 다다 대근 가지도 치니 큐긴데나 가사상부 지점 유예체 가리 유예세 지도부 유예체 캡 준바 상와 유엔된다데 또바다데 현라 펜자천부터 유미스르 원아 지스르 제베 스리우다 더주다 신시다 코리오다 롱준 디즘지베 가사 대근디 수신 제바 니게 자와다 되게 자와라서 니게 자와다 니 타마데 노르스입니다. 니게 자와다 되게 자와라서 상부 유에 세대 대외 성룩데 노르차와라 지룩기 ndabатсен데 버송 노르차와데 페실 딕둑 담게라 민지메 따임베 최라 제베 대사 랑 데르미오 대단 초착바다 자더블 송아 이념.
To continue reading from the text at the top of page 5. I have been to some present-day monasteries and asked them how many fine individuals they have there. They say there are a few. When I ask what they are like, they do not say that they are learned, venerable, good, endowed with qualities realized, or that they benefit others greatly. So I ask who they are, and they tell me about individuals who have gold and turquoise, horses and cattle, and farms and property, who have this many retainers and servants or that many possessions. They are the lifeblood of the monastery, they say, then the one named so-and-so and the one named such-and-such are good people, they say. What they call being good is being wealthy, so they must be desirous and interested only in this life. Being very wealthy is usually a sign of not shying away from misdeeds, suffering, or ill repute. Such a monastery could never be a setting for true Dharma practice. You should leave that place just as a bird leaves a lake when it freezes.
다디 가르승고르서나 팅상 대당 대사대다지 커뮤니티를 비스바 대당 공부지가 침배입니다. 아니 캐라즈 딜리아 지 가사 상부세난다도 미상부 미 야보든제 세난다도다 안다든제 가르가르요 요르베스 근데 요르베스 계제 TV나 가시 주에서도스 다 간제든제 요레스 가사 상보함 야보 간제든제 요레스 계제 TV스다네 다 치원닝네 텐네 천들로 로로바이 생겼는데 민두스 다네 다 가르라고도 쓰나 세르다 유기 최지 섬으로 지 최지 스리유와 지 다의 추기 최지다 다 더주망부에 최진들들이 알아서 세르다 유망부에 지 림부진들들이 알아서 다네 지 신가 라서 망부에 죽은들들이 알아서 코로나만들이 된 캠보들들이 알아서 아 텐제 세야 딱한다 니오네는 아주기 대다 고마데 속신이래 다디 디소 대다 고베게 짬네 베나 짬네 세난다도 레디오 자산도 다 딘데싱게 메 첸 가르에 첸 제버가와 딘데 디단 디샤 데데 장모데 베메데 요레스 라고도스.
So what this says is that when he goes to some present-day monasteries, or you could say communities and monasteries, and asked them how many fine individuals they have. So fine individuals means good people, some upstanding good people there. So so when Potowa asks them, he says, we have a few people. And so I asked them, well, what are these fine individuals? What are these good people like? They don't say that these are people who have really taken Dharma to heart and from the bottom of their hearts have given up on this life. Instead, what they say is that these are, they talk about individuals who have gold and turquoise, that is, who have a lot of wealth, or who have horses and cattle, who are rich with livestock and horses and cattle. And farms and property, they talk about people who have this many retainers and servants. They talk about kempos with a certain size of retinue and this number of students, or they have so many, or who have certain possessions. And they say that such people are the lifeblood of the monastery. Saying the lifeblood of the monastery means like they are the place where the monastery places its hope, the people whom they can really rely on, the people who they say are so important to the monastery.
Norj Chijungi Yawachidos. Tene Tagarangi Sendiver Songdos, Tagarangi Sendila Shensha Yevaji, Yeva Tating dos.
And so the way that what they say makes someone good is actually not good at all. What they are doing is they're distinguishing how good someone is by the amount of wealth that they have. And so this shows that they are attached to this life. This is the evidence of them being attached to this life.
Then Demba Imehago Manda, near the Digicos. Demba Imehago Manda, Tain the Digicos. Dago in a go Gemushor word to Jaza di Sheen. Ma, Jawarum Jukundulia. Tugu, Dindiji, that Tugu Sava Summer. The Javres, Jedusana, and Jarum Jiggy, and you get Monangra, you Canadian Canderes, Candangra, and the Usana. Trugudi, Rumbuchin dig, Kukumadela, Cheve in the Carriores, Cananas, Kucheve in the Kucheve, Takanda, Yundicheve, Yundian Canar. That was the Shepjit to combat in the Izarba. That was it. Tiktali roll is a Tatamad Tadang Slingy, Pelia, Kamla, Tachishudi, Slingia, Tion, Tatina. The Tat is of it, Sakase, Sasu Tis Sakara, Sasu Tis Mat Cholmaris. That is Chuzukashimado, Chogumaras, Tak, Champotizuki. Kundunya, Tiche in the Kamarwa, Tiche in the Karmal, Pando in the Carriore, Pando in the Carriores, Candanaris, and Pando in the Siam in the school. Lamadigi, G. Pamba the Toy in the Hasiamindus, Kuzus Kuche in this Lamsa, Be Chicarre, Shagak Bodang, and Jill Course is the one. Cesar and Beme the Kongi, Kukuma, the Kusha Jawashi server. Then it is an Siling Tachembo Dizwigi, Achuzini Mother, Chomaras.
So there's a story here. I don't know if this is a true story or not, but it's kind of funny. So at any rate, there was once a new tulku who was brought to meet the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama, as he often does, asked many questions. Well, who is he? Where is he from? What is he like? And so the Dalai Lama at this point asked the question, well, what were the great qualities of his predecessor, of the previous incarnation? Now, these people, they were from Kham. And so they said, oh, he was absolutely incredible. He was an amazing Lama. he was so fat that even the big horses from Xiling were unable to carry him for even an hour. That's how great he was. And the Dalai Lama said, but that's not a sign of greatness. What are his qualities of abandonment and realization from the Dharma? So this is just a sign of how these servants, how the attendants were thinking. When they're asked what are the Lama's qualities, they don't think of his qualities of abandonment and realization. And instead, they think that being fat and being wealthy is really good. And so they said that it's really great that he was so fat that even the biggest horses in Tibet, the ones from Xiling, could only carry him for 1 or 2 hours.
아, 내가 가지 뒤에서 삼으려지. 그래서 네 주들 대신 되지. 라르 아숑지래. 라르 란드용 아버들의 현실 차원이 된 독로 도에 현을 펜중세를 제게 대인들고 랑거서 천들을 립거반디다. 주제 로나에 뭐주고 근데 개발매 대나 최전되고 근이 심전라 펜다발라 모두 진되바 미제바 인데 몰라 치나 산에 자그 냠네 콩라 심제지가 오이 대라 레마 좀 라르야 콩도 계시 콩양 오마와 그가 신신 냠버주 최전되바 그 천디 되제기 세 최바 야올라 미진 라라 신기 친야 미사 타르 사레스 손이 치이처럼 유인스.
To continue with the text, generally this attachment and greed for the 5 sensory pleasures leads to lasting suffering in the end. Thus, even if you were to help others a little, you would need the result to come to you in this life, and there would be no difference between you and all those who have not even turned their attention toward philosophy. Therefore, anyone who wants to practice Dharma should not expect any favors or reciprocation in return for helping others, who would then think that they needed to repay the favor. If they failed to reciprocate, it is possible that you would get angry and they would feel ashamed or inadequate and go astray. Anyone who wants to practice should not even give their fellow practitioners food with the strings of this life attached. If others give it to you, do not eat it. In the end, it will become a back and forth of food that will eventually cause you to lose the Dharma.
I think that philosophy should change. Maybe you should change it to Dharma.
So there should be a change in the text. It should be, there would be no difference between you and all those who have not even turned their attention toward the Dharma.
다디 가르친 거로서나 알아들어야 최바스 제제 최밤 다지 가르쳐야 나바상계 최념len 생계래 나바상계가 레스 민다샤바 디정 아주 가르쳐서는 미신달 팬 컨디시다비네 팬도 컨디시에비네 대라야 수지 가르렌라야 삼불레 중나야 민되버지기 로시게
So when we are called practitioners or Buddhist practitioners or Buddhists, what that means is that when we do something to help other beings, then we shouldn't expect anything in return, not even a good response.
Dona siela pen tawe chubdyam dributela siela pen toba jiga rawa jaba mato begi susul ngosu yonada mi sienda ge ji ta ko gedin chenbo yin ko ka shwe tuji chenbo yin sam dege ka shwe tilnen zia mindyo ba chi ko reso.
So what we should accomplish from benefiting others, the result of helping others is just that we help the others. we shouldn't expect that they do something to make us feel good. We shouldn't expect that they then say, oh, they're very kind, they're so compassionate. In brief, we shouldn't expect any gratitude or reciprocation.
타나 몰라 신두스탄에 무슨 코란리아 베네지 잘라르 제베 잘라지 제고 삼베네야 에너지 가르에 가르에 더지디 무슨 소마르다 데라멘다 가르에 어레 드네 뉴스안에 다디 가르스나 잘라르 제비 로봇 셰비네야 안디기지 하마고베 토네 그럼 프리부테 하마고베 토네 수수 로봇 셰비 하마고베 토네 로봇 셰네야 고요레스 계시 수수 로봇 셰바데 프리부티 하고소나 차르지다 가보 용어레스 내가부지다 가보 용어레스 이나야 타마텔라 코란레 셈제지 용어레스 다크 응알로 데베 미시 야고 체레스 제상에 콜라 파지 야고 쳔마도 ndrigimi sambarabji 텐디지기 가르르다지 코란레 셈제지 용어레라 다가난 신기 양한테는 렘마존 소소이 콘트사레 네 엄마 콜라 빼메 야고 빼메 제인스 마코즈 그 다다 지 넘주된다 ndrig지레 삼상로지 데리지가 토네 아니 콘로 있겠지 그래 데네 인주산 도나 라신니가 아니 축비시마도 지 연구 말았어
So what this is saying is that when we give things to others or when we help others, it's best if we do it in a way that the other person does not know or does not realize that. Because if we do something to help others and they know that we are helping them, then maybe at first they will be, one time they'll be happy. For the short term, they'll be happy. But then eventually what they'll start thinking is, oh, that person treated me really well, and it wouldn't be okay to do something in return. And so they'd start feeling uncomfortable. And then if they didn't do anything to reciprocate, we ourselves would get annoyed. We'd think, oh, I did something to really help that other person. I treated them really well, and now look at the way they're looking at me or thinking about me. And so we'd then get angry. So in brief, if we give in that way, then it just becomes the basis for conflict between ourselves and others.
베나 아주 지조나로야 파마디즈기 부리아 충두 참부 시부체 나 코란주 저와래야 코란주 첨부 갱고체주산 부디즈지 요격을 해서 말아보지다 되지 로봇이가 돼서 말아보지 근데지가 레와 첨부를 시켜 아니 타마 지기 로첨부체주산은 부디즈기 수수응아를 저와 잡아낸 시지 뭐 정도 아니 셈라 동해 신보도 봐 제가 전주 셈바디즈기 셴펜 주야사 코랑게 레가 랭겐지 데 코랑게 랭겐지 데미 뉴산 디 균zel 때네 아니 가르레 딩에 랭겐지 딩에 가르레 다 간다 마랑게 최고야지 최외베 레가지니 최외베 차와 된대지 가르레 주베베 차와 된대지 삼바마도베게 당에 들이지 파체는 제만 들이지 추용 그래 삼사로 되게 저자요 말았어.
We can see this in our society. When parents have children, then they treat them very well when they are young. And they have the thought, oh, when I get old, then these children will take care of me, they'll help me when I get old. And so they have a lot of expectations on the children. Then when they get older, if the children do not treat them as they wish, then it causes them a lot of suffering, a lot of mental anguish. So with a bodhisattva's job or a bodhisattva's responsibility is to benefit others. So bodhisattvas should think, this is my responsibility to benefit others. This is what I need to do. This is what is worthy of being done. This is what is worthy of me accomplishing. So in brief, we should not hope for any back and forth or any reciprocation.
Yang cheba gu lo chela ma kewar gegar duk thon norso mi semzi pubdere jini chewate chela ngeshi ma gewele mai chela ichi gena pubden chela samame chela chushin du chena gegar dudo me.
To continue with the text, furthermore, instead of bringing their minds to the Dharma, all practitioners gather wealth for fear of being badly off in old age. They make people feel good and look for some insurance. This comes from not developing certainty in the Dharma. If you believe in the Dharma, there is no better insurance than Dharma. If you practice Dharma properly, you will have no fear of being badly off when you are old.
Tadi jidang ko debur che karare sana ene ajo cheba tamje lo chela kege yomanas lo chela mages tan lo de be chela lo de linger cheje ene jani 이제 자자 갸탐바지 kege yomanas de 마기네 가르쳐 걸었잖아 소소 시가 개갈라 누구 용거래 강에 태어래 삼네 가르쳐디도잖아 노르소 아니 미기 셈진스도산다 미기 모송 빼레시 다나 신기 다 부den사디 다 내가 비 인슈런스 그룹에 가다들이지 가서다 제마 야부 마차나 엔급디도 배주 동안 없었지 되지 담만 지금 균원으로 샤지 근데 저것도 없어. 다들 최라 자자자다만 이제 많이 다르스. 최라 이제 개비 이미냐? 아니 저기 가수래 잡된디 최래 나가지 요 말았어. 추추신은 냠내 세베나 러니 시가 개가 누구야 도바고 말았어.
I think this is easy to understand. All of us Dharma practitioners, instead of bringing our minds to the Dharma, instead of developing real confidence in the Dharma, 100% belief in the Dharma, instead we fear that we're going to be badly off in old age, that we're going to have difficulty in old age. And so we try to make people feel good. We try to placate people. We try to assuage other people. We try to make other people feel good, and we look for some insurance. So insurance here, what we really mean is that you try to have something that you know you're going to have when you're in old age, some sort of wealth or some sort of money that you will have in old age. And so this comes from not developing certainty in the Dharma. Because if we had real certainty in the Dharma, we'd realize that there is no better support for ourselves than the Dharma. If we truly practiced the Dharma, then we'd have no worries or no fears about being badly off in our old age.
largi ge su de ding yeba dawa chi tidu pen toton da duma cheba dida da duna chimala kowe dungen de ngeba konor nyong juala ndinamla chobsam budenam sechimen dumala penbari jiga chasu zu tangwala sendi gebate rale konala onwa yela chime dunge dawe drala onwa drawa shada cheba dinam chebo kui ya masambe yin che masambe rangshin tamji tuemeki dunge bashi la jar tadung teshin du yude samna su sue tam nyam.
To continue with the text, generally, if we consider those who seem to have confidence that they would live to an old age and have the ambition to do something that might help themselves at that time, in the next lifetime they will definitely experience only the sufferings of samsara. They should make ready some provisions, insurance, or anything that will help with their ambitions for the next life. Instead, they simply act as if old age in this life will happen only to them, and the suffering of the next solely to their hostile enemies. Not even Dharma practitioners have thought this through. Not having contemplated the Dharma, they only bring pointless suffering upon everyone, themselves and others. Who could bear to think about them still being like that?
Da teleyang karshuwe de dandi tunda de karsungurusana 안소 가르쳐요. gengo chacha ba duju yebe ki dingsu yeba rabochi. 다가 나신기 디두 pen 토그레 삼베기 지 최시시부 지 띵네 데디가르스. 딘데기 내가 제단들 때비나 지 세치마 코에 동에 지 가르에 다 세치마다 지 단동이네 배지 가르에 지 세럽 세치마 대치마 치마 대주기 체도 지 그 내가지 제사를 삼삼을 도데 이네 아니 그게 가르에 sendi gengo chaade gebe dungede susujibu le yongye besochi chechimege korwe dungede aji susu do doji mishinda doji yongye mada susu gan yongye ba doji chona mindu.
So the meaning of this is that we make all sort of plans so that in old age we can have some assurance, some sort of basis and confidence that we will, some idea, some way that we will be well off in our old age. When we take a look at this, then it seems like it's people are not really thinking, that we're not really thinking about the sufferings of samsara in the next life. And the next life means also the lifetimes that follow that, the life in the next lifetime and the following lifetimes. It's as if we think that we should be making plans for that, but instead, it's as if we think that the suffering of old age in this life, the difficulties of old age in this life will only happen to ourselves. The sufferings of the next life, the sufferings of samsara will only occur to our enemies, that is only to other people.
Teneya shungzirchi. Kaji chue chebala ya me sar chue mi jela digba chebala digya nyen ngang jugde nyen ja aina de didaja degungi zumba chubo chwada kowe dong에 예 마삼바 케 작전남 예렘바다 디남 김중밤이 김진진바 차와이 제바 최체네 등진 김버웨 담바디 코르캬베 따인데 마고 최체발라 최자머니 바티야 최라 이마체베 렘바인 최체베 동하게토 디과세베 기도레네 알라토 중세레 오나 닝라 텐세체.
To continue with the text, some say they lack the provisions for Dharma practice and don't practice, but they find the provisions for committing misdeeds and automatically do them. This is because rich monks in monasteries have never contemplated death and the suffering of samsara, and you important people seem to be responsible. I say they are giving up a small household and taking up a big one. What they do is dharma, but their ego clinging is even tighter than a householder's. This is the sign of wandering in samsara, but they do not understand that. Not finding the provisions to practice the dharma is due to not believing in the dharma. They are afraid of that practicing dharma will make them suffer and hope that committing misdeeds will make them happy. Hoping to get their hands on some small something, they do whatever they think of in their hearts.
다디 가르송에서나 카시지기 당 아주 최지 제거성도 최체할이야 최가 민도스 다 야스도산의 최체할이 다지 클래스를 스코어바 그 최체베링리야지 집 가서 배주당하기 삽제는 스코어다 삽제 능금민도 최지 제거성도 삽제 능금민도 제제 대리샤스 이내 딕바 체주산에 ko digya manina digba chayala kora topje deso manina ota digya mindus cheje ko chidin chig mindus digba chegyan redos.
So what this is saying is that there are some people who think, oh, I need to practice the dharma. But they don't have the provisions, and provision here means the food. They don't have the food, enough food to support them during the time of their retreat, and so they are afraid to engage in the practice. And yet, when it comes time to do misdeeds, they don't worry. Oh, I don't have the provisions. I don't have enough food to do this misdeeds. They don't worry about this, and they just automatically do the misdeeds.
드네주산다 니남 김중방비 김신진바사지 가래스타나다 니 아주 담보 럽드 총주산에 김해 바랍도 총서봐 김방네 럽드 총에 있어 봐 김충우데라 럽드 총 김진보 진진 대려 배 예보 베비 예보는 신기 베베 롱주다 다가는 신기 진종다 되게 자천부를 송제 대여스 다데 가라서 김충준 빵네 김친부지 바르스 베나 네라 샴발로네 룰라 차바데 직바 가사 네라 샴발로네 데라 차바데 직바레스.
So what it says here is, I say they're giving up a small household and taking up a big one. This means like when we go forth and become ordained, we say that we are going forth from home to homelessness. And so here, it's like they're leaving the small home and going to a large one. So they're going to one with as many provisions and facilities as if they were a king. So they're going from the small household to a great one. And so this is saying like you have lost all interest in barley or lost all interest in tsampa, but you start to like rice instead.
아주 디 소스타변 도연고다 김대 치중반에 럽든 중화 가사야 점르베 김기된 치중반에 럽든 중화 가사야 나도 드리십니다. 김단 도랑 알아서 코안에 녀버는 중고다 럽든 중화사도 쭈쭈데 코아데 짜다 커부티고 잠기 럽든 중화 쳐고만에 짜다 커부티딩 가지고 온다에 누가 요르다 Kwesebo kwendiga tata kabuti dinge risho wala dizu tata kabuti kwesebo kwen yoyongdwa jeza tetsamga rabdu chung yegi kurang tuanda rabdu tsangyo rabdu chunga sayade ta ji kowa la nginchung gene ji karshure taba tuandu nyewa rabchi tende chi gugu yore.
This is as it is said in the Pratimoksha Sutra. It says that it is difficult to go forth from either a large or a small house. So it's like this. It means that just shaving your heads and faces does not mean much. You can see how many people are there who shave their heads and faces. Like how many people are there who will how many rickshawwallas are there who will shave their heads and faces and put on robes. But if we talk about going forth, that doesn't really fulfill the meaning of going forth. Going forth means that you want to be emancipated from samsara and that you seek freedom.
다들 된게 럽중사라는라도 오늘이 되래. 된저베라도 중화되네. 가르레 김바다 럽중 이게기 코알랑 예버 중화데 김바다 럽중 이가 직벌어. 김바 최 냠는 생기네야 코알라 예버 중고아. 자바럽도 중화지 비네 코알랑 예버 중고아.
So that is the meaning of going forth. And actually this meaning is the same both for householders and for the ordained. Householders who practice the Dharma also need to seek emancipation from samsara. And monastics who practice also need to have renunciation for samsara.
사바르도 랍도 중한테 저기 네버죄바 돈바스네라노 지 기디 방랑차데 kimbal에 플라즈지 된지가 차신시바 기디 방랑 처십 징게 된지 고아레스 이내 딩산 쳐바다로도 중화데 저기 가르쳐 줄사나 배 등진 kimbal에 담바찬 최제제제 담아르도 등진 체로치 나게 체로치 안다 가르쳐야지 심규 셈 차도 치니 김바 탐매와 대술래 도즈 젠데리 도스 다디 가르사나 최단난도 송아레스 수수는 남기 최주 되게 예배 섭다를 제디가 된다 너도 최지 머주바 최 머주버 송아레스
For the ordained, there are the vows. There's the restraint or vows from wrongs. What the ordained should do and what they should not do is even more subtly described and more subtly limited than what the householders should do. And yet, for many ordained people, when they practice, it's like their ego clinging just gets stronger and stronger. The more they practice the Dharma, the stronger their ego clinging gets, the stronger their pride gets. And so in the end, what happens is that their mind stream becomes more and more solidified and hardened. And in the end, they end up worse off than they end up being worse than even an ordinary householder. And so what this shows is that the practice they are doing is it's fallacious dharma. It's not true dharma. And this is a sign that even though they seem to be practicing dharma, in actuality they are not accomplishing anything.
최체바는 최가 니가 민도사디야. 최를 이 마치면 따라해서. 최사를 가르쳐 최냠는 증기사디 다딘사 인지 돌에 스피리추얼스 거래. 다 너나 지 최냠는 증기성들이야 심슈 지 셈기 누바스난라도 지 이체wen 셈기 이체기 누바 템보슈지 누바 시엔에 캐버도 봐봐 심슈 시엔에 캐버도 봐봐 뉴루 시엔에 캐버도 봐봐 진짜지 고아 진짜지 충분히나 오늘 전에기 최바 냠렘 바스난라도 오늘 전에기 지 최바 청주스난라 들지 차도 와래 베는 지주밀레레바도 지주밀레레바 다 고랑기 지 가주래 자거다솔라서 바테솔이야 검정아르도 다시나시 나나나 시나시 삼사로 지기 진짜지가 바베 르동 첨부체 셈리야베 빠주인 소소소소리야베 빠주인이 지 로어로 지게체 진짜지 지마와 제가 최르도산에 로어 첨부고 아지다 간다 심슈 첨부고 아지나 뉴르 첨부고 진짜지래 진짜지 충분히미나 안 최자니 만약에 그 도바당 최자니 만약에 가르쳐요. 콜라 강에 태우 말했어. 다다다 최자 얘기 민도 생각에 가라서나 최체나 땅아 강에 태그리 도부 용거래 삼네. 다 디버체나 기부 용거래 삼으로 근데 쟤네 또지 라발래야 베나지 고모 잘로르 지 베나 디린도 군je 고모 잘로스 탑서나 왔다 선을 전세 제시하랬어.
So, to truly practice the Dharma, this is a sign that they are not really practicing the Dharma, that they haven't really devoted themselves to the Dharma. When we're doing spiritual practice, when we're doing Dharma or spiritual practice, then we need to have a certain zeal. We need to have enthusiasm. We need to have power, strength of our mind. We need to have real belief in what we're doing. And our belief and our enthusiasm should be stronger than anyone else's. Our fortitude should be stronger than anyone else's. If we can do that, then we will truly be able to practice. If we're going to practice Dharma, we need to be like Milarepa. He went to many caves, such as the Jakartaso, the white cave, Horsetooth, the Horsetooth White Cave. And he thought to himself, it doesn't matter if I get sick, it doesn't matter if I'm going to die. And he devoted himself to the Dharma. We need to inspire ourselves to have such courage for our Dharma practice. And so we need to be able to have such devotion, such dedication. We need to have such enthusiasm and strength to ourselves to do our practice. Then if we have such devotion, then it doesn't matter to us it doesn't make any difference to us whether or not we have provisions. We're going to go do it anyways. If we think to ourselves, oh, I'm not going to get the provisions, I'm not going to get the food to do the Dharma, then really what we're thinking is, if I practice the Dharma, I'm going to have a hard time, I'm going to suffer. But we don't worry about that with misdeeds. We can see what happens if you get 100 rupees. Like if we're given a sangha distribution, if you get 100 rupees, then you'll do anything at all.
다雄sil에 개셰군 셴라 윤셰 제장은 론주 닝부메바 인생 덴덴게 서데 라르 루부 놀라데바데 이무 라르 쳬다라렌 저버체네 셴 년도 가난데요 라상신녀의 다수 셴라야 선념 기세 총지 까자소 파점르면 라메게 투르면도라 초분남 군장 당와 인생에 카슈 로버는 죽반도디 대랑기 땀그 깨와인.
Continue with the text. When Geshes teach others the benefit of generosity, they all say that possessions have no meaning, saying things that seem to be quite true. But their innermost thoughts are focused on wealth, and that is depressing. When the Dharma and their actual practice become incompatible, how will anybody want to come listen to them? It is a sign that they seek material offerings when they say to others, give alms, do business, amass things. If you don't have a few things, the Lama will not pay attention to you, and all your friends will get angry. Their words contradict the Dharma, and that dissipates their warmth.
계획신에서 가담배 라마티술라지기 다팅사 라마사 처르데 우마 계시스라고 그래. 맞아 안디 계시스야데 아주 팅산지 계시 땅아 계시 맞다. 다 계시 가담배 계시 뒤서 가시에 가르쳐 두서는 오의 윤시시르잖아. 배나 진다지기 그랑 가르쳐야지 땡구순도되는 신 땡구순도된 신주스다 진다 타마타마들 진다를 거기에 당하지. 다 교란 양 구순티된 신바데 약보레스 폐윤 첨부 요아레스 이제 야들 오해 요시스 거봐 다 이제 야두사 가르치도사 어다 론주에 닝부 요 마르스 제제베 계자 덴덴다와 지 계자 덴반다고 시에데도 코란주 가르치데도사나 루부 놀라 덴덴 주놀라베 루부 덴덴도 다데베 ngosabodos 미신달레야 론주리 닝보 마른 도도 치 소소베 론죄레베 가르베 이덤르베 심제 대리샤스
So here, when it says geshes, this means like the lamas of the Kadampa tradition. It's like saying lama these days. It's not like they took the geshe exam or something like that. With the Kadampa geshes, what they would do is they would have the...
some Kadamba geshes.
Some Kadampa geshes, what some Kadampa geshes would do is they would give teachings on the benefits of generosity. So a sponsor would build some representations of the body, speech, and mind, a statue or something. And then in the end, the geshe would then invite the sponsor and give them give them a talk saying, it's very good that you've built this statue or this representation of body, speech, and mind. They're very beneficial. So this is called a teaching on the benefits of dedication. And when teaching this, they would say things that seem very true. And they'd say, wealth and possessions have no point. And yet at the same time as they're teaching this, what they're thinking inside themselves, what their innermost thoughts are focused on is wealth, and that is depressing. So at the same time as they're telling other people that wealth has no point, they themselves are taking wealth as their own yidam deity.
소수기 최는 셰반나신 나라주 소수기 최는 셰반나신 데 가르에 소수기 지 최는 셰야 되다 라렌다 니부디 베 장게 체네 가르에 라 장게 첸데려 알았어 근데 인주산에 미게 가와닌 거라서 밀 최셰는 가와녀로 쳤어 얘는 최생긴 호랑리야 안에 가르에 최다라는 전이 되려래. 최다라는 장계신 되려래. 진짜 인san 되는 최년이 가와 용어스. 빼나스. 빼나 키지 수게 담비네. 년 코지 떼고 노도를 세세. 발레소를 짓고 차르나. 거기 수용거를 마도 유바찬 대선 키수 용고 말아. 키 동다 땅아체도. 그 수게 땅아 코수 용고 말아 파 변로로. 때는 신기 수수기 최수신의 냠내 맞아서 다도 다 슈가 주쇼서 내 최시에 용사나 수지 용만은
So with these geshes, it's like the way they teach the Dharma, they don't practice the Dharma the way they teach it. The Dharma that they teach and their own practice are in opposition to each other. They're complete opposites to each other. And when their practice and their teachings are complete opposites, how is anyone going to come and listen? No one's going to want to come to listen to that. Who would want to come listen to someone teach the Dharma when the Dharma they teach and their actual practice are in opposition to each other? How would anyone come? It's like if you want to get a dog to come, you have to give the dog a biscuit. You have to give the dog a doggy biscuit. If instead you're going to chase after the dog with a stick, the dog isn't going to come. They don't want to come and get beat. They're going to run away. And so it's the same. When we do not practice the Dharma, we teach properly. Maybe we can say, come and I'll teach the Dharma, but who's going to bother coming?
이제 남사 제사 인기 말 오호 겐 주어마라 자매 Today is a Dinsan Benada Chigelia, Jonie, some of the Chigelia, Lama de Dang, some of the Chigen and Sama. Chigen Rudusane, that Mima will I shadow, tap that down. Advertisement channel. Uma the Cabra de Dungadus, I love some. Oh, that Coranzo de Labrachemolea be Yize, Longuyana, and the Indian Jambang, one of the artists. Cannot do some shows. And Jambang, one Tomna, Labrachemole Yize Kionores, the Titus. Young Kashi Benjo Tizu, Yavashra Lambu Jumiache. Gee. 가서 풍구 된로지 서머다 간다 지 깔라카부 차다시도 어디한테서 아들이 잠발라 왕고 예스 이게 아주 배저 야부차 총 야부차고 선거도 상무 효 안디지 왕 톰나다 지 차로 돼서 근데 가서 잡았던 것도
These days, when lamas go abroad, you have to make advertisements. You have to advertise the events so that people will come. And so people have told me about advertisements. Like they say, the advert says, if you are about to take your university exams, they're difficult, so come take this empowerment of Manjushri. If you get the Manjushri empowerment, then you'll pass your exams. Or sometimes people are worried about the economy or about their business. There might be people who are about to go bankrupt. And so the ad will say, if you are in financial difficulties, come take this Jambala empowerment, and then you will be wealthy, and you'll be prosperous, and your business will go well. And so these are the sort of advertisements that people make.
Jusan에 빠쳐지네 세상 예원심을 캠부치 코 아메리카리아 침 아메리카 당보 주주산에 엔 캉보 다 최시에서 캉보들에 로송 클라스 땅으로 와 캉벌레 최시 주산에 미숨시 마도 연구면도스 이 삼바도 교용도스 미숨시 마도 마용데 아고 삼바교는 산다 그 동행도 미신달 시에부터 미신달 시주산나 디난 주구지기 그런 것이 주구지기 교란데 가 말했어도 교란데 숨쉬지 여러 제 야보레스 나고마 당보 치게 레레두산에 왕지 꾸라지 왕 꾸라지 원주체 참마 잘 홀레자로 홀 초간레자 옹주체자 상마 제스 메시지 용님인데 메시지 용님 고고고고고 수지 용하면 다 지게림네 원주체 왕구야 팅탐버레스 자네 먹음니 바 제조 제샤나 dimdi 야보 용사 말해서 된송스 게트키퍼지 도스 대학에 당했어 고승긴지 꼬야게 난 어따 저랑 드린 아주 여기 가수에다 짜시바다 짜시바 지인도 지람네 그걸 분바tek 샤힌 아 거랑게 지겐도지 아 하이 굿 거랑 가버리시지 거랑 괜찮아를 저도스 제마 계절 지도자 코 같이 지래도 다들 지게 라마도 두통베 루주래 밀라레베 두통베 루주세 줘봐 얘는 지게 라메 두통베 루주
So a Kempo I know once went to America, and the first time he went to America, they rented a place and they had to go through expense to do this. They advertised, and he was teaching Dharma. And the first time he taught the Dharma, only 3 or 4 people showed up. And he was like really disappointed. He was kind of depressed. You know, he had first time coming, and only 3 or 4 people showed up. And so he talked about how disappointed and how difficult it was. And so then there was a tulku who said to him, "Oh, you're actually doing okay because 3 or 4 people actually showed up for you." And the tulku said, the first time he went to America, he gave an empowerment. So they rented a hall, he did all the preparations for the empowerment, they were ready, they had this big hall, and no one came. They waited and waited, and no one came at all. And so it was like the first time he was giving an empowerment abroad. So if he just did the concluding ritual and closed up, then that wouldn't be a good sign. It wouldn't be a good connection. So they looked for someone. They found the security guard. And they called the security guard and had the security guard come and say, "Oh, now you're really lucky today. We're giving you this empowerment." They gave him the empowerment. And so this is abroad. So this person's like really happy. It's like, "Oh, great, I've got this empowerment. How wonderful." Later, they ended up speaking with the security guard, and it turned out he was Muslim. So these are the difficulties that lamas face when they go abroad. It's like the story of Milarepa seeing suffering. It's seeing the sufferings of lamas abroad. And so if you really practice the Dharma properly, as it's taught in the Dharma, then when you speak with other people, there's a certain weight to that, there's a certain value to it.
dindeji dangwa jiwares te karresana so duni injire so 제자 duni inji기다 전주가 셈 검네 duni 니부지행이 전주가 셈 검네 근데 냠네 제비네 거 심지 지기 대마도 주마도비나 나데 원래 전에게 지대와 된저베 즉 duni 인지 전주가 셈배 검모도체 그다지 미 최소 동조 최소 마음 뒤뒤에 비냐 된도 아니 셈해 좋대야 그라 하고
It's like the great Drukpa Mahasiddha Lorepa said, if you gather crowds of thousands or tens of thousands of people, the benefit to others does not increase. If you only have one person in the crowd, then it does not get any smaller. So what this means is that when we have the union of emptiness, compassion, when we have bodhicitta, that in essence is emptiness and compassion, then if we meditate upon this emptiness that is this bodhicitta that is in essence emptiness and compassion, then even if we only bring benefit to one being, that's fine. If we don't meditate upon bodhicitta, that is emptiness and compassion, then even if we have crowds of thousands or tens of thousands of people, then we will not really be able to bring any benefit to others.
xianbian zhu tu men du sa de zu an zu gui long wen ne zhen ne xian la la bu san ba ke ba de den zhi yue me de le ra le de sa de nga rang nyam nyo che ba ne ya ka xie gi ben den zhi de zan bei gou le ya zhuan de ge bei gou le wen ne zhen ne ge xian la pian sem ge guan ne gui ne la de zan yong ju sa ne wen ne mi ma wo zhe pian dou yong hua ka xie ji ge den zhi zan bei gou le ju su su ke ba yin ba dun jian de ji che ji bei ga ru 배 시제 탐지 수수 시제도 다 전부 시행 주산 시행하는 편도시라면 되게지 보디는 제가 다 주지 제 근데 주산다디 디 조디 셴편기 근로 유명지를 라래디 있어라
So whether or not what we do will actually accomplish benefit for others depends upon our motivation, whether we have a true extraordinary whether we have the truly extraordinary intention. It's like in my experience when people write books or texts about the Dharma, Some people really have the thought, oh, if I do this, it'll bring benefit to others, and they write the text, and it really does bring benefit to others. Some people think, oh, if I write this text, then it'll show how learned I am, and they put everything that they know in the text. They write this huge, thick volume of the Dharma, and yet in the end, it doesn't really benefit anyone. This is because it really depends upon our motivation.
Now, that the logic chiklabri that tis and other sujus and other Tazamnia, some jaguar, Zimra.
And so today, this is where we need to leave this teaching, you could say this instructions or the teachings on Potowa's long soliloquy.
Dadari, Kajuman, Soshi Kabliata, but in Yeke, Langan, so no did the Baji, that Trubes or the little Charles.
And now my primary responsibilities in this 34th Kaiju Munlam have been completed.
And I did Jelia, the Rimonum Swache. And then I come the Gavin, come among us can do that to see that.
And following this, we will recite the aspiration to the state of the path, which is on page 341, and then we will have 5 minutes of meditation.
Demo nija sumju sobde. Dep nija sumju sobde.
Yeah.
아니 이제야 다 운중업 시작은 운중업디 다람사 제토 아요 섬 정도 가르스나 남균이 운중업디 제심부터 데스 로종매비나 운중업디 하고 제시하는 섬을 레라슈르다 잘했으면 돼야면로
So next is our meditation. I'm not sure if it'll work out to focus on the breath or not. I think actually you have to have a little bit of education before you can really follow the breath. So maybe it's actually easiest to just focus on sound.
단 너나지 곰데 게두사네 지금 데베 지금 니주 데베 제미 좀 마음을 두면서 사는 신기 지금 데베 니주 디기디 이 지금 태야데서 참샤 마음의 니주 지 친나게 하듯이 참샤 다 다대기 내급들이야 다 모멘트 somewhere 다대기 급리야 니주 가르치고 예비미네 디기 내당 니주 가르이미네 디기 가르쳐 니주들 지 템베스 메시지 될래야 심플하게 이러고요.
So as we say when we meditate, the situations of the past, it's like we say, don't follow the tracks of the past, don't anticipate the future. So you should, whatever the situation of the past that comes to mind, you should stop thinking about, or take a break from thinking about the past. It's likely with the future, don't anticipate it, don't think about what will happen in the future. Instead, just think about what's happening at this point, at this moment. You think about with the current situation, with the situation of the present moment. Then just catch that with mindfulness and let your mind relax.
베나차샤베는 아주 기 가르사 우글 셈데네 섬으로 롱래 다 우더 롱선 경험도 데 고마데 미세죠. 베나가란수 상월로 우단데 거로 니마 딱바르시 우단디 지단게 내다는 주주와 그러 전신 가나주 지단게 내데 내다 미세지 저거 말데 지단게 가나주 내다는 차려 할래 헌토고야 내주지게 저거 말 근데 이제 참자고 지당에 내다 인자 인샤샤를 제연 주산 참상아 우 당게면 하고 문도 와 얘네 오늘 전에 삼담이나 아주 우디 땅에 차서나 가르쳐는 시도로 우파 땅산 나는 우야면도 시도로 된저 우 땅에 대 지 추주지래 말은 니마지 말은 다와지 말에 로지 말에 배 인생 고모 유리야 간다 깨네 손에 맛이 봐도 우당대려 드네 주산에 다 텐저 우당 옥시젠데 치료게 다지 디산 세리비시에 지신 나서 뒤로 충분했어 제가 딘데기베 차겐지 가르쳐야 말한 소리야 다도 좀 돼요 알아 지금은 손보내 투야지 가르 맞잖으로 된 알아서 다도 유리야 대유리 주산 대랑아 주기 상로지 땅인데 다가랑기 당아 지 개바 상보래도 상바르지다 네 원서 첨보래도 아주도 손보내 돼야 원서 첨보래도 상바르지 증거 다가랑기 셈을 디기 용어로 봐 이침버로 지다 일에 대화로 용어로 봐 근데 주산 대 가서 삼당과도 계속 시작하시
Like with the breath or the air, really meditating on the breath, it's something that we do all the time. It's not special. We're doing it every day. It's just an ordinary where we are. There's nothing special about it. We don't find anything amazing or anything incredible about it. But when we really start to think about it, we just sort of take it for granted and we don't really think about the breath. But if we really start to think about, well, what happens if we were to stop breathing? If we stop breathing, well, we'd die. If we were to breathe out and then we weren't able to breathe back in, what would happen? We'd die. And so we do this not just for one day, not just for a month, not just for a year. We do this 24 hours a day from the moment we are born until we die. We are always breathing. The oxygen that we breathe in, as scientists explain, this comes from plants. And so we have everything we need. We have like the basis, the riches that allow us to read. And so just having this, thinking about this, if we really think about it, we should realize how incredibly fortunate we are. We should think how incredible it is that we have this opportunity. Just thinking about this should give us some sort of a feeling of happiness, a feeling of contentment. So it's important to remember this.
다나 집에나 다들 삼다인 두산에 아주 미다바사디 미마우지 삼레나는 치와 미다바스 두산 치와 미다바 고면서 두산 탕하시그리 나페사로도 성사로지 근데지기 지금 직다게 대한 근데지리야 치와 미다바 고면서 거래 근데 치와 미다바 고면서 두산 타지도지 배지 미듬비 초안에 삼당과랑 아유나 삼자 미다바사디
And when we meditate on the sound, it's like impermanence. Often we think about impermanence. We think, oh, I need to meditate on death and impermanence. I'm going to die. It's going to be terrible. Poor me. And so we meditate on impermanence. We think that the purpose of meditating on impermanence and death is to become afraid. But I wonder, is that actually really the only thing that we need to meditate on impermanence?
미다바사디 고급지를 좋아하는 시험이네. 고급지. 제상 안아서 쇼베스 가르쳐 까마찌기에는 삼로 땅바디야 까마찌지를 제법 야초도 이 갭초하다 가르쳐나 미다바 인생 아주 제법 잡초고 아도 딱과 있는 제법 야매와 누가 동아매와 다는 신기 다가는 신 아주 지 배나 되는데 동용도 산에 깨체로라 깨충로라 와 대야 미다바 인생 꼭 깨치중 당하여 여러분 미다바 마이나 아니 깨지면 저거 말아. 아니 지 림부도 비슷한데 깨지면 자면 냠보여 말아. 근데 인도산 뒤준전 때네 미다바사데 고급지미지. 간다디 고급대야 까차르지 까마르지진 알아서 고급 제타매버지. 근데 주에 되면 아주 하고 거기다 계속 시작하시. 제상 아주 고급디 덤진체네. 최근에 시대에 미다바 검사데 고급디 덤진체네. 아주 고급의 마셔르첸 고급 된제 고급 top 디급을 저 수수기 주외에 차와디 봐 딱딱딱딱 주야지 지 가서에 수수기 템베스 뭐지 딱딱딱 주야지 디면이 좋으면다 보면서 거 이 디준 데 공부시에 딱 가나 공부시면 다 가만한 공자인 다 가만하대 저 용어래다 다 가만지 다 가만숨 다
So, actually, we should think of impermanence as like an opportunity. It's like in every moment we have this opportunity. Because whatever we were thinking about in the previous moment, we can change that in the next moment. Because it's impermanent. Because it's impermanent, we can change it. We can swap our thoughts and think about new things. If they were permanent, we wouldn't be able to change them. We couldn't exchange old thoughts for new. Likewise with sound. Sometimes the sound is softer, sometimes it's louder. This is because it's impermanent. It's because it's impermanent that the volume can change. If it were permanent, it could only make one sound. Like if you were playing a flute, if the flute only could make one sound, it wouldn't sound good. So impermanence means that there's an opportunity. It means that we have a chance and an opportunity to change. And so we need to take that chance. We need to take that opportunity. So I think when we're meditating on impermanence in terms of the Dharma, that means that we must not let these opportunities slip by. We must take these opportunities and do whatever it is that deserves our doing right in that moment. And so if we have the mindfulness that we need to do it, that is in itself meditating on death and impermanence. And so we now have the time for meditation. We will meditate for 3 minutes.
지다지 지금 거를 나서 다디 디젤이야 다디 세다스는 마저 삼을 쉬야지도 안 가자네 손에 아주기 도스바 미 마저도 다는 이 디제가래 등교 말에 그래서 가자네 손이야 지기야 디제가래 최바도 제가 다를 두 세브레 제가 최바도 먼저 도두시나 삼대서 지당 다지 돌마시야 최바시야 되사디 벽이 공배 르네지 제가 다 베베 르네지를 슬람 두고 왔다 조진에 시나 제가 니나로 달로디 조디 거유만람 나로래야지 그래도 튀실라면에 좀 티에 다디 수상원 체인주산에 대단 제여를 체제 아니 까마랍게 조디 까마랍게 구신야라 감 뒤좀 개만에 개범이 유도지 봐도 까마랍게 구신야라 담아시 로르메시 따바르 저게워 다드네 강래야 긴주추니 아무튼 주진계 자가 주진계 신고선수 근데 자가 주진계는 가시 괜찮아도 제가 다디 요샤는 가서래서 되네 구루생계 신나선수는 구루생계 나로 양직도 다대 양대 다 요샤는 가서래서 중수 제가 다디 가라 진주추 중니체 디가라 겐추의 초니 지동 다가다 게르시 다드네 당하나 제로치고다 다드네 워들이야 예초 워들이야 예초 도마 시분디 워들 계젠디비 개버시면 되시지 다들 상이 좀 된데게 사기기 때문에 좀 리아베 까나샤 된데게 답에 남버지 수마스야는 나도 다가들이 차디요 다디 파조디 연초리야 도마시 디워들레 벽이 년신디시 벽 라디조 아주 다다보다 도마시는 도메나 군유요 제가 다 벽 라디조 디즈야 베 되런도 당제 디즈 디즈 제고도 대마제신 야부민도 삼 아니 벽이 년신디시 샤게 마게 보라 로 이게 마베 장게 년신 타라 아니 되네 가래 너 요새 동라면 다 가는 데지 무슨 알아 제가 그냥 도스바 거라 주지사네 아니 바지 빠 자초 이기래 아 그냥 소리야 모바일 폰 쿠르차바데 네 가자 쉬는 신기 안달로지 네 우주를 잡지 모바일 폰데 쿠주고 도스 우주 잡래 제가 강주 다다바도 야부를 채송 팀도 야부 송지 강주 팀 야부 무슨 건조만 주체나 땅 안 나고 차로로 그래서나 모바일 폰 구주고 있으면 아인상 안 나고 차로 다이네 또 스코라도 주산 덴베고레 데가레 토마토 소레 디주 파르잡거나 파르잡쇼 아니 담아발라도 주던 가장 던 주산에 지 제가 땅되게 소리지 배 직제대로 들이 제모 그런 줄 르르 로중이야. 아주 제가 땅되게 소리잖아. 이 민상으로 지게 가서다 착보를 차지 하고 싶다. 르르지. 주주인데도 앉아서 르르시 당사. 야 오면 저 섬자. 담아발도 좀 먹었지.
Next, I have a little announcement that I'd like to make. Starting yesterday, actually, generally, we haven't been allowing the public onto the stage, but starting from yesterday, we have been allowing the public to come and view the tormas and the offerings during the lunch break. Making tormas is actually a Tibetan tradition. It's a tradition from all from all the different Tibetan Dharma traditions. So you can say it's a Tibetan custom or a Tibetan tradition.
Monastic.
It's in all
Culture.
It's part of Tibetan culture. Then it's done in all the
Monastic
Tibetan
culture.
monasteries. Part of the monastic culture. So for this year, during the Kaju Munlam, because we have had the teachings on the 4-session Guru Yoga, I thought that in connection with that, we should have the tormas of the 8 karmapas. So the 8 karmapas means the first 8 karmapas from the first karmapa, Dusum Kempa, to the 8th karmapa. And so actually we have different tormas every year. So this year we have the 8 karmapas. And then above them we have the 6 ornaments and the 2 jewels. So the 6 ornaments and the 2 supreme ones, I should say. The 6 ornament and the 2 supreme, this means the great scholars of India. At first we thought of putting up the 8 great Mahasiddhas, but some of the 8 great Mahasiddhas are kind of bizarre, so we thought better not do that. Then I thought about putting up the 8 forms of Guru Rinpoche, and one of those is kind of bizarre, so better not. And so we've put the 8 scholars known as the 6 ornaments and the 2 supreme ones, so that's a total of 8. Then below them, for the tormas on the right-hand side, we have the 4 great kings. The 4 great kings are kings who, during the time of the Buddha commanded to protect the teachings of Buddhism, and so they are general protectors of the Dharma. On the left-hand side, we have the 4 Nyenchen, the 4 great Nyenchen deities, protector deities of Tibet. We haven't had any Tibetan deities before, so I thought we should give them a higher place and praise them a little bit this year by giving them a higher place. And so we have the 4 great Nyenchen deities, and so these include Nyenchen Tangha and several other deities in each of the directions. And so as you go by them, you should feel to take pictures. This year, I've insisted, I said that everyone should be allowed to carry their mobile phones. And because I insisted, then I said it wouldn't be acceptable, you must allow phones. And so you've all brought your phones, and you've been very good about following the rules. It's important that you follow the rules, because if you don't follow the rules, I'm going to look bad, because it's me who insisted that you should be able to take phones. If you don't follow rules, I'm going to look bad. But when you come and you see the tormas, then I think if you take pictures of the tormas and of the Buddha and so forth, and the offerings, I think that is fine.